just don't know what's become of us. I don't know what's happening. I mean, I do, but I don't. I don't know how. I don't know how this has all happened. In such a short time, things have changed so much. Things I never believed I would see. I see every single day now. People are splitting up. Families are splitting up. Longtime friends are rejecting each other over politicized messages in the media that are obvious lies. Families are rejecting their own children. Children are rejecting their siblings. They're rejecting their parents. People that stand for truth are rejecting each other and accusing each other of being shills. Almost everyone is latching on to any bit of hope that they can and refusing to see what's happening. They're latching on to their countries, even though it's plain to see that all the countries in the world are doing the same thing and clearly working together. The political leadership in each country is not in control, and it's been made obvious. The systems that we've built have gotten to the point where nobody's in control anymore, but people think that there's these secret groups of people that are in control, and there are groups of people. I think there's a few of them, but none of them are in control because they're fighting too. People keep pointing to targets that they can see, like, I'm not even going to say their names, but I'm sure you all know them because they're in the media all the time. People will keep making memes about them. I was guilty of that because for the past year and a half or so since this started, I started speaking out immediately for the first time in my life. I never wanted to before because I hate myself, really, but because of the things that I've done. But at the same time, I know that I have some skills to see things because of how little I think of myself. I have some other traits that I was born with that give me an advantage in doing that. It also made me good at some of the things I did in my life, like programming. I'm really good at seeing errors and problems. I'm also dyslexic, so many times I see things backwards, but not just numbers or words, concepts. And so when I hear things, instead of seeing from the way other people do, I'll see it reversed. So I see the end of it rather than the beginning. So a lot of times I don't fall for things that other people do. I see the protests happening, They've been happening for a year and a half, and I keep hearing each time people keep latching on and they keep calling for people to stand up, and nobody's standing up because nobody has the ability to do it anymore. Nobody has the ability to get together with one another anymore. We've given that away. For the most part, people can't even communicate in any real way anymore. It's gotten to the point where people lie and present a false front more than they show themselves. Many people never show the real them. Most people can't even walk out of their house with the way that they look. Women have to spend all this time putting makeup on and having the right brand of clothing on, or putting on an identity so that they can feel good enough about themselves just to speak to another person. And when they do speak to other people, they don't even tell them about themselves. They tell them about things that they think they want to hear. So they'll associate themselves with this group or that group, or this sports team or that sports team, or this celebrity or that musician, or their profession. Depending on their profession, they'll have different heroes that they idolize that are normally just given to them in the media. And today, the media is openly, all the news companies are openly paid by the governments. They don't even hide it anymore. They just call it subsidies and say that they have to do it because those companies were going to go out of business. That's outrageous. And 40 years ago, even 30 years ago, this would have been unheard of and completely unacceptable. People don't even speak about it. All media today, I think, is owned by 6 main companies. 6. Guided by small groups of people. And those people are bought and paid for by other groups of people that aren't even directly associated with the company. And then you can take that further, and all the companies in the world end up being controlled by the various banks. And then the banks are controlled by bank holding companies. And there's not too many of those. And they have owners. They have names. There's various families in the world. I don't need to give their names. You can look those things up. Many of the video games that are played by children, especially the violent ones, are supported by the militaries directly. The most popular games are ones where people spend all their time killing one another, or raping, or killing innocent people. In most movies and stories now, it's not even the heroes in our movies and stories now aren't even good people anymore. They don't even have good values or ethics at all. They're bad. They're murderers, rapists, liars, cheaters, And they're considered heroes the whole time. They don't even overcome those behaviors. They just continue doing them. And they're seen as, this is what people grow up looking up to now. And the political messages that are pushed through movies and television are so obvious now that it's unbelievable. You can see it easily. I'm not even allowed to say the various points or behaviors that are pushed in the movies, because if I did, I'd be considered a hateful person just for pointing it out, even if I didn't give you my opinion on it. Even if I thought it was a good thing. If I pointed it out, I'd be hateful because they can't admit that they're doing it, that they're manipulating people, and it's working. You can look at young people and they do exactly what is in the movies and on TV. So do the adults. If you want to know what answers they're going to give you to questions, all you got to do is look at it, not very far back either, because people's attention spans are gone. Watch the news for 3 days and then go talk to somebody, anybody, somebody at the store, a younger person, an elderly person, whatever, and ask them questions about the various talking points you heard for those past 3 days. They'll tell you word for word, what came through those news broadcasts. And the manipulation techniques that they use aren't even hidden anymore at all either. Like a simple news broadcast today is normally a talking head, like me, I guess, right now. But when they make these broadcasts, they put a little ticker right across there. And then they have a sidebar, like right down here. So, why is that a problem? Well, they've studied people, and if you look at mentalists, they have this technique for implanting information in you by, say, talking to you and then putting something back here that goes only into your peripheral vision. Now, when you do that, it bypasses your critical thinking and you don't think about it. So if you watch a news broadcast and you're listening to the person talk, like you're listening to me right now, while you're concentrating on me, anything that goes across here goes right into your mind. And same with this side. Now, if your attention changes and you start reading this, anything this person is saying goes right in, and it bypasses your thinking. This also happens with music. That's why they spend so much money on it, and why they prop up fake stars. That's why they always pop out of nowhere. And the lyrics are always so horrible, because people listen to music all day long and they don't pay attention to what they're listening to, and they hear it over and over, and these things go in. And what's in those lyrics? Sex, drugs, drinking, cheating, etc., etc. And what do people do? Ask younger people what they do. What do they do on the weekend? They get drunk. They have sex. They don't have relationships that last for any length of time. And right now, So much information is coming out at the same time. They're putting out the truth and the lies at the same time from the same people. One day they'll tell you the truth, the next day they lie to you. And people just ignore it. They don't care about the truth. All they care about is the presentation of authority, because people are taught from the time they're very little that they don't have the ability to stand on their own. They can't trust themselves. They need to trust the experts. They need to trust the things that we built. And they should be able to. But the thing is, the way everything's designed and compartmentalized, and because of the way the people are that are in it, it's all corrupt. It's all broken. So even if a good person does get in, they don't last very long. They very quickly get pushed out, bought out, or simply gotten rid of if they're too much of a problem or they're too stubborn. Most of them are liars, though. They know how to manipulate people. I can see them doing it because for most of my life, I manipulated people extremely badly because of the way I grew up. I was really hurt. A lot of bad things happened to me when I was young, starting at the age of 2. Made me really violent. And I was a little bit better of a speaker than a lot of the people around me. And I could see things, I could feel things. So it was easy for me, and I was so angry. So I spent a lot of time doing that. I didn't turn around or stop doing that. I hated myself for doing it. When I got to the beginning of my 30s, I started drinking. I didn't want to be alive, so I figured I'd drink myself to death. That didn't work. And that by the time I wanted to stop, I couldn't. And I had done so many shameful things that when I was sober, all I could see in my mind was all the things that I had done and all the people I had hurt, and how many things I had said, how badly I treated the people that tried to love me. Things didn't really turn around until when I was 35, 36, I can't remember now. I still remember it. It was when I first was on the street and I was desperate for help to stop drinking. I ended up in this place in Calgary called Alpha House. It was a detox. And I was so broken. And for years at that time, I had been looking into the families that ran the world and what was going on. And I came to the conclusion that it couldn't be people doing it. Because from what I've seen in my life, people simply aren't capable of working together on that scale for that length of time. So I concluded that it wasn't people. And I knew all about, David Icke and Alex Jones and people talking about reptiles and aliens, galactic federations and stuff. But I didn't believe any of them. I knew what was going on because what was happening I saw was evil. So when I was in that place, I prayed for the first time. I still remember that. I didn't even know who God was then. So that was the first thing I asked him. I asked him to tell me who he was. I told him I knew he was there. He accepted me then. And he told me who he was. It started changing my life. He didn't just start changing my life externally and guiding me. He changed something inside of me. Because before then, I didn't feel bad, really. When I hurt people, I felt bad because I knew I should be better, but I didn't really. It's hard to explain. But from that point on, I kept doing a lot of the things that I did before. I kept drinking on and off. I kept hurting people. But I hated every minute of it. I couldn't stop. I'd stop and then the world stayed the same. People kept doing the same things to me. So I kept relapsing, right? And that continued for, well, since that time. And then after this all started, and the world went completely insane at the beginning of 2020, I knew I had to start speaking out, and I did. Really harshly, I did it in person. And I was rejected really quickly because of it. But I wouldn't back down. Because of the rejection and because of how futile I saw everything as being, I didn't know what to do, and I was alone. Nobody really cared about me anymore because I had been a drunk for so long and I had hurt so many people and used them. So all anybody thought was, if you've never been an addict like that, it's hard to explain. But regardless, the people were right to reject me. And over the past year and a half, I relapsed a bunch of times. You can see it on my timeline even. Because sometimes I would be there, my anger would be coming out. I was really angry. And then when I would start drinking, it would get extremely bad. And towards the end of last year, I went to Penticton in BC. I ended up in a shelter there. And the shelters there are wet houses, which means you can do whatever drugs you want in there. I never had a problem with hard drugs before that, but I only lasted about 2 weeks in that place, sober. And then I started doing meth, which was amazingly stupid. And I was surrounded by people that were doing heroin. Probably at least 3 or 4 people would overdose a day in there. I think I was there for a month and a half in that shelter. It's hard for me to remember time. I was fucked up so much of the time. I ended up stopping the meth about a week before I left the shelter. And then a couple days before I left that shelter, I I got really angry at God. Told him I quit. Fuck that, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. Can't do it. So the night before I was going to leave the shelter and go back to Calgary, there were some guys in there that knew me. They all knew I didn't do heroin. They knew I just drank and smoked speed while I was in there. Figured I'd kill myself. So I smoked a shit ton of heroin and drank a bunch. And I died. Fucking right I did. I was stone dead for 15 minutes. But God didn't let me, he didn't let me go. And no, I don't remember anything. I lost about 4 or 5 hours time. I didn't know that I had died until I got up and was hungry. Saw the horrified looks on people around me and the staff. So I went and ate. My chest was really sore. They used paddles on me and stuff. And then I went back out to the inhalant area. That's where you went for cigarettes and stuff. And I smoked more heroin. It had fentanyl in it. It all did there. I kept smoking heroin for a few weeks. After that, I got back to Calgary. I kept smoking the heroin. Didn't do it for that long, but it was long enough that when I stopped, I had to go through withdrawal. It took like a week. It was pretty awful. Then I was sober. And I ended up flying down here to Ontario. And things didn't work out the way I thought. Ended up getting put in this motel you see me in here. And I didn't see any way out. I still don't. But so I started drinking. And I drank really hard for about 3 weeks straight. And I stopped that. Told most of you on here while I was detoxing and stuff. And I had a lung infection while I did it. Detoxed right here. Right in this room. Alone. Because I couldn't get into the detox facility. I still can't access any of the services here because I'm from out of the region. Every day things get harder. Every day I see people when I go to the store or whatever, and they're wearing these masks, and they force you to wear them, and they don't care if you have an exemption. The majority of the people are like that. There's not enough people to stand up, and there's not a big enough group anywhere that can organize to do it. Too many people are going along with this. And there's so many lies that nobody knows. Nobody knows what to grab onto, so they're grabbing onto anything that they can. So they grab onto the best looking things. They're not grabbing onto God, they're grabbing onto things here. They're grabbing onto people. Whoever says they can solve the problem. People will do anything to get back to normal, even though it's obvious that normal ain't coming back. And even the normal that we had, how good was that? Was it really good in 2019? Was it better? Did people really care then? Did all of this just appear in 2020? All the corruption was there. It just became a lot more obvious. Things are changing very definitely. Moves are being made. There are people behind the scenes that are globalizing things. The only way they can do that is with deception. And they're pitting people against each other, and it's working. People are hating each other because of their race. They're hating each other because this person says the earth is flat, that one says it's round. They're hating each other because these people believe Trump's going to save them, and these other people say the political game's a fraud. Other people are latching onto companies like SpaceX, thinking that the solution is to go to Mars. Mars. Even if it is real. What the hell is anybody going to do on Mars? And who exactly do you think is going to go there if it's a real place? It ain't going to be you. Meanwhile, all the time, they're making things that don't last as long as they did. Shoes even fall apart in like a year now. Our clothing is garbage. Most of the things around us that our homes are built out of are garbage or toxic waste. The things they give us to clean our bodies with are full of poison. You can't even pick up a tube of toothpaste without looking on the list of ingredients and finding poison. And I'm not just talking about fluoride, the one that everybody talks about. I'm talking about the coloring, everything. The same companies that are giving us all these things now have been caught repeatedly doing the same thing. Putting out products, certifying them safe, having doctors say they're good, paying for studies that show they're good, and then eventually they kill a pile of people. Nobody really gets in any trouble. Sometimes they pay a bit of money. The governments that are claiming to keep you safe and tell you they care about your health have repeatedly been caught experimenting on their own people, killing their own people, murdering people in other countries, subverting other governments, lying straight to your face. There's none that are good. There's no good leader that can get in control and bring it all in. The only people that get to that level are people that step on others to get up there. Even Christians can't get along. They'll kick you out of their church if you walk in there and use slightly different words to describe different doctrine. Even if you say openly Jesus Christ is Lord, and you never waver on that, period. They'll kick you out because you have a different view on the rapture or end times, or just because you won't fall in line with the ideas that they have, or the behaviors that they think are correct, or if you just don't give them enough respect. And then there's so many different denominations. There's this church and that church. And if you come to this church, you use this Bible. You go to that one, you use that Bible. That church over there will let you use any Bible you want. Nobody in the church opens their Bibles. They don't even bring them. And even if they did, they couldn't follow along because the pastor will use 6 different translations in a 15-minute sermon. And he doesn't even understand what he's saying. He's just copying somebody else's. They won't answer tough questions. They can't even tell you if you've been saved. They can't tell you what it means to be made in the image of God. They can't even explain to you what Scripture actually means. They'll tell you to follow the government. They'll tell you to follow people that clearly do things that are against Scripture. They'll tell you to be silent. What is happening? No wonder young people don't know what to do, why they get drunk, why they use drugs. Every single show on TV has the main characters drinking. That's what they do. They never get drunk. They never wake up the next morning ashamed of the terrible things that they've done or the people they've hurt. They just drink and everything's all right. It isn't like that. It's not like that in real life. That's not how things work. All the things that are pushed appeal to us are carnality. What's carnal mean? Carnal means flesh, fleshy, our bodies. They just appeal to just simple things that make us feel good for a minute and not for very long. And so you got to keep doing them, and you continually get worse and worse. I don't know. I don't know what to do. I'm here. I'm stuck. I had no way to move forward. They're locking down again here. And even if I went and looked for a job, I can't wear a mask all day. I feel ashamed of myself wearing them just to go to the store or try and get my ID so I can turn on my PayPal online or use the Bitcoin that I have. So I just sit, I stay here, and I speak out as much as I can. And even then, every day I get attacked. People telling me everything from I'm a fucking Freemason to I'm being dishonest because I don't know exactly what's coming, but I know that we can't change the direction of it. And a small protest isn't going to fix that. People have built. What we've built is a monster. And everyone has rejected who they are and what life is, to the point now that people are physically rejecting what they are, completely reversing it. And they're doing it to children even, forcing it on them. People are putting masks on babies because they're afraid to breathe. And I'm nobody. I try to speak out. There's no reason anybody should listen to me. I fucked up my whole life. I have nothing left. The only thing I have is me left. So I put it out there. And I'm fucking ashamed of it. But it's the only thing I have to give. People need to have more compassion for one another. You need to stop latching on to yourself and your pride and the things that you think that you know, and look at the people around you. Because even the people that you're laughing at and the ones that you hate, they're not okay. Nobody is okay anymore. The kids are not okay. Families are not okay. You can see it. You can feel it all around you. When I was in the shelter in Calgary right before I came here, they forced us to wear masks to be in there. I remember seeing an older guy. He could barely even walk up the stairs. And he could hardly breathe. And I remember the staff yelling at that man to put his mask up because he had pulled it down so that he could breathe. There's no caring anymore. How are you going to stop that? How are we going to stop that from moving forward? You tell me, because I don't see it. I don't see a solution for it. I can read scripture though, and I can see what that says, and it tells me where it's going. I don't know what to do, and I don't know why I made this video, and I don't know why I said all the things that I did in it. I don't even know why I started speaking on video. I fucking hate pictures of myself. I hate looking at myself. I hate looking at my teeth because I've ruined my body. And tomorrow I'll go online and I'll post more things. And more people are going to get on there and tell me that I'm a fucking paid shill. Living in a motel with not enough money to eat. The only reason I have enough money to eat is because some people on here were kind enough to help me. I don't know what's going to happen to me 2 weeks from now. I don't know what's going to happen to me tomorrow. But I know the direction that this world's taken, and I know that there's only one solution. The only thing I can do personally is try to tell the truth. And that doesn't mean I want anybody to follow me. It doesn't mean I expect you to listen to me. It just means that I'm doing the best that I can to try and help. And you should too. That's it.